The House That Breathes Your Name. Chapter 1. When the door opens for you. The house was not abandoned. That was the first lie Evelyn told herself. From the road, it looked empty, windows dark, iron gate rusted, ivy choking the stone walls like something trying to silence a scream. But as she stood there, suitcase by her side, she felt it. Awareness. The air around the house was heavier, warmer, as if it carried a pulse. Not sound. Not movement. A presence. She checked the address again. This was it. The job listing had been vague. Live-in caretaker. Privacy guaranteed. Excellent compensation. No photos. No company name. No contact person. She should have turned around. She didn't. The gate creaked open on its own. Evelyn froze. Her fingers tightened around the suitcase handle, heart hammering so hard she felt it in her throat. The gate moved slowly, deliberately, as if the house were deciding whether to let her in. Then it stopped. Waiting. She swallowed and stepped forward. The gate closed behind her with a heavy clang that echoed too long, too deep. The sound didn't fade. It sank into the ground. The front door loomed ahead, blackwood polished to a dull sheen. No handle. No bell. Just a brass plate engraved with a single sentence. Come in willingly. Her breath shook. This is insane, she whispered. The door opened anyway. Warm air spilled out, carrying the scent of old wood, something metallic, and something unmistakably human: skin, breath, heat. The hallway beyond was dimly lit by wall lamps that flickered as she stepped inside. The door closed behind her without a sound. Click. Locked. Evelyn turned slowly, pulse racing. Hello. Her voice didn't echo. The house swallowed it. Then footsteps. Measured. Calm. Male. A man stepped into the light at the far end of the hall. Tall. Dark hair. Dressed in black like the house had dressed him itself. His gaze was steady, unsettling, not hungry, not kind, but knowing. You're late, he said. Her throat tightened. Who are you? His lips curved faintly. Not a smile. Something more dangerous. I'm the reason people don't leave. Fear flared. Desire followed immediately after, sharp and unwelcome. That's not funny, she said. I'm not joking, he replied, walking closer. Each step felt synchronized with her heartbeat. You answered the listing. That means the house chose you. The house doesn't choose, she snapped. He stopped inches away. She could feel his heat, smell him: smoke and rain, the same scent as the letter that had arrived weeks ago. Oh, he murmured, eyes darkening, it always does. The lights dimmed. The walls creaked, not settling, not aging but reacting. Evelyn's breath hitched as she realized the truth sliding cold and intimate down her spine. This house didn't watch from a distance. It listened. It learned. It waited for weakness. And now, it had opened the door for her. Chapter 2. The Man Who Never Leaves. Evelyn stood frozen in the hallway, the door sealed behind her, the silence pressing against her skin like a second layer of clothing she hadn't agreed to wear. The man in black didn't move. Neither did she. You said I was late, she finally said, forcing her voice steady. Late for what? His gaze didn't leave her face. Not her body. Not the suitcase at her feet. Her face, as if memorizing her expressions, mattered more than anything else. For deciding, he replied. A chill slid down her spine. Deciding what? He stepped aside, gesturing down the corridor. Lamps flickered to life one by one, revealing a long hallway lined with doors. Too many doors. More than the exterior of the house should allow. Whether you were coming willingly, he said, or whether the house would have to persuade you. Her grip tightened on the suitcase handle. I want to leave. The words felt weak the moment they left her mouth. The man tilted his head slightly, studying her. Then slowly he smiled. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't kind. It was patient. You can't, he said calmly. Not yet. The lamps dimmed a fraction, as if the house approved. Evelyn's pulse spiked. You locked the door. No, he corrected. The house did. She swallowed hard. Then unlock it. He took a step closer. The air shifted with him, warmer, heavier, intimate in a way that made her skin prickle. The house doesn't respond to commands, he said. Only choices. She lifted her chin. Then I choose to leave. For the first time, something flickered across his face. Interest. The floorboards creaked beneath her feet. Not randomly. Not from age. From movement. The sound traveled beneath her, circling, repositioning. Listening. The man's voice lowered. That choice has consequences. Her breath quickened. Who are you? He held her gaze. My name is Adrian. Something about the way he said it made her chest tighten, as if the house recognized the sound of it, echoed it softly through the walls. And you? He asked. Evelyn. The moment her name left her lips, the house responded. A low, almost imperceptible hum vibrated through the floor. The lamps flickered again. One of the doors down the hall clicked softly, unlocking itself. Adrian's eyes darkened. It likes you, he murmured. Her stomach dropped. That's not funny. I know, he said. That's why I'm concerned. Concern didn't look good on him. It looked dangerous. Protective in a way that implied possession rather than safety. What is this place? She whispered. Hollow house, he said. Living structure. Psychological predator. It learns the people inside it. Their fears. Their desires. His gaze dipped briefly, deliberately. Their contradictions. Heat crawled up her spine, unwelcome and undeniable. And you? She asked. What are you to it? He was quiet for a moment. Proof, he said finally, that survival doesn't mean freedom. The door behind her rattled once. Then stopped. Evelyn's heart slammed against her ribs. You said people don't leave. Adrian stepped close enough now that she could smell him. Smoke, rain, something darker beneath it. He didn't touch her. He didn't need to. Some do, he said softly. But they don't leave whole. Her throat tightened. And me. The house sighed. Not wind. Not settling. A breath. Adrian leaned in, his voice barely more than a whisper against her ear. That, he said, depends on how much of yourself you're willing to give before it starts taking. Evelyn closed her eyes. And the house listened. Chapter 3. The room that knows what you want. The door waited. It stood halfway down the corridor, darker than the others, its surface smooth and unmarked. No handle. No keyhole. Just bare wood that seemed to absorb the light around it. Evelyn hadn't noticed it before. Now she couldn't look away. That door wasn't open earlier, she said. Adrian followed her gaze. His shoulders stiffened almost imperceptibly. No. It wouldn't have been. Her pulse quickened. Why is it open now? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped slightly in front of her, not blocking her view, but close enough that she could feel the tension in him. The house opens rooms when it's curious, he said. Or when it's hungry. She swallowed. Hungry for what? Adrian glanced at her, eyes unreadable. You. The word settled low in her body, unsettling in the way truth often was. The room breathed. She felt it, then air moving in and out through the doorway, warm and slow, like lungs working just beneath the walls. A faint scent drifted out, cedar, skin, something intimate she couldn't place. Her feet moved before her mind caught up. Evelyn, Adrian warned softly. I just want to look, she said, though even she didn't believe it. The moment she crossed the threshold, the door closed behind her. Not slammed. Sealed. Her breath hitched. The room was dim, lit by a single lamp in the corner. No windows. No mirrors. Just a wide, low bed at the center, covered in dark fabric that rippled slightly as if reacting to her presence. The walls were smooth, warm beneath her fingertips. Alive. This room, she began, then stopped. The house hummed. Not loud. Not threatening. Attentive. Adrian stood just inside the doorway now, tension coiled through him like a drawn wire. This room responds, he said. It listens to your body more than your words. Her heart pounded. That's not possible. You already know that's not true. She did. The air shifted as she took another step forward. Warmer. Closer. The hum deepened, syncing with her pulse. She became acutely aware of herself, her breath, her skin, the way fear and curiosity twisted together into something dangerously close to want. The bed dipped slightly. She hadn't touched it. Adrian swore under his breath. Don't, he said sharply. Not yet. She turned to face him. Why? What happens if I do? His jaw tightened. The house learns faster. Learns what? What you crave, he said quietly. And what you'll trade for it. Her throat went dry. The walls seemed closer now, the space narrowing just enough to make her conscious of every movement. The lamp flickered, shadows crawling slowly across the floor toward her feet. A whisper brushed the edge of her thoughts, not words, but sensation. Recognition. The room knew her. She pressed a hand to her chest, grounding herself. It's reacting to my fear. Adrian shook his head once. No. It's reacting to your honesty. The hum deepened. Evelyn felt exposed in a way she never had before, not watched, but understood. As if the house had peeled back layers she'd spent years hiding behind. I didn't agree to this, she whispered. You agreed the moment you walked through the gate, Adrian replied. The house doesn't force. It invites. And then it waits to see what you'll admit to yourself. The bed dipped again. Closer this time. Her knees weakened, not from fear alone. Adrian moved fast. He caught her wrist before she could step closer, his grip firm but controlled. Enough, he said, voice low and strained. If you give it this room, it will expect more next time. She looked up at him, breath shallow, heart racing. You're afraid. Yes, he admitted. Because I know what happens when this house learns your desires before you learn how to defend them. The hum softened. Almost disappointed. The door behind her creaked open again. The room released its hold, slowly, reluctantly, like fingers uncurling. Evelyn stepped back, her legs trembling. What was that? She whispered. Adrian didn't let go of her wrist right away. That, he said, was the house asking its first real question. Chapter 4. The first rule you break without knowing. Evelyn didn't feel the punishment right away. That was the cruel part. The corridor looked the same when they stepped out of the room, dim lamps, long shadows, doors standing in silent rows like witnesses pretending not to watch. The house gave no sign of anger. No noise. No warning. That's how Hollow House worked. It never reacted immediately. It waited. Adrian released her wrist once they were several steps away. The warmth of his grip lingered longer than it should have, ghosting over her skin like a memory she hadn't earned yet. "You shouldn't have gone in there," he said quietly. "I didn't touch anything," she replied, though her voice lacked conviction. Adrian stopped walking. He turned to face her fully now, expression dark, controlled, threaded with something dangerously close to frustration. "That's the mistake," he said. "You think touch is the line." Her stomach tightened. "Then what is?" He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Acknowledgement." The word landed heavier than fear. The lamps flickered once, twice, then steadied. Evelyn glanced around. "What rule did I break?" Adrian hesitated. That hesitation terrified her more than any answer. "You let the house see you without resisting," he said finally. "You didn't deny what you felt. That's always the first rule." She shook her head. "No one told me there were rules." His mouth curved humorlessly. "The house never does. It prefers discovery." They resumed walking. The hallway seemed longer now, subtly altered. Doors she was sure hadn't been there before appeared between others. There were darker, newer. Or older. "I didn't agree to be studied," she said. "You didn't disagree either," Adrian replied. The words stung because they were true. They reached a narrow staircase leading upward. The air changed as soon as Evelyn placed her foot on the first step, cooler, thinner, charged with awareness. Her room waited at the top. She knew it before she saw it. "This is where I sleep?" she asked. "For now," Adrian said. The door opened easily at her touch. Inside, the room was simple: a bed, a dresser, a chair near the corner. But the walls were different here, closer somehow, faintly warm beneath her palm. Personal. "This room," Adrian said from behind her, "will change as you do." She turned sharply. "Excuse me?" "The house adapts," he continued. "It reshapes spaces based on what you suppress and what you accept. That's why the first rule matters." "And that rule is?" she demanded. He met her gaze steadily. "Never let the house know what you want before you know what it costs." The floor creaked beneath them. A single drawer in the dresser slid open on its own. Evelyn's breath caught. Inside lay an object she recognized instantly. Her scarf. The one she'd lost years ago. The one she'd searched for and eventually mourned like a ridiculous, sentimental fool. Her hands trembled. "That's impossible," she whispered. Adrian's face hardened. "That's the cost." She stepped closer to the dresser despite herself. "How does it?" "It remembers," he said. "And it offers proof. Just enough to make you trust it." The drawer slid shut. The room fell silent again. Evelyn wrapped her arms around herself. "So what happens now?" Adrian lingered in the doorway, careful not to cross the threshold. "Now the house waits to see what you'll do with the knowledge that you've already broken a rule. And if I keep breaking them?" His gaze darkened. "Then it stops asking." A soft sound echoed through the walls, not a whisper this time, but something closer to satisfaction. Evelyn sat on the edge of the bed, pulse racing. The house had learned something about her, and she had the terrifying sense that it was already planning how to use it. Chapter 5. The night the house doesn't sleep. Evelyn woke to breathing. Not her own. She lay still in the narrow bed, eyes closed, counting the seconds between each inhale. The sound was slow, measured, patient, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. The house was awake. She had the strangest certainty of it, like a shared secret pressed against her skin. The walls held warmth now, radiating faintly, as though the room had wrapped itself around her while she slept. She opened her eyes. The lamp beside the bed glowed dimly, though she hadn't turned it on. Shadows clung to the corners of the room, refusing to settle. The air felt thick, charged, intimate in a way that made her breath shallow. "Stop," she whispered, unsure who she was addressing. The breathing didn't stop. Her door creaked softly, not opening, not closing, just acknowledging her. Evelyn sat up, heart hammering. She swung her legs over the side of the bed, the floorboards warm beneath her bare feet. She wasn't alone. That was the worst part, not the fear, not even the watching, but the certainty of it. The house wasn't hiding its attention tonight. It wanted her to feel it. She stepped into the hallway. The lamps were brighter now, casting long shadows that moved when she didn't. The corridor stretched farther than before, its geometry subtly wrong, like a dream refusing to obey logic. "Adrian," she called softly. No answer. The house answered instead. A low hum vibrated through the walls, gentle but insistent. It wasn't threatening. It was inviting. Leading. She followed. The staircase appeared where it hadn't been earlier, curving downward into darkness. Each step echoed beneath her feet, though she knew she was walking alone. With every step, memories surfaced, unbidden nights spent restless, longing she'd never named, the ache of wanting to be seen without being claimed. The house listened. She reached the bottom. The sitting room was lit by firelight, though no fire burned. Adrian stood near the far wall, his back to her, shoulders tense as if he'd been holding still for far too long. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly, without turning. "Neither should you," she replied. He turned then, and the look in his eyes stopped her breath short. He wasn't afraid. He was resisting. "The house doesn't sleep," he said. "It presses hardest at night. When people are alone with what they won't admit." She folded her arms, grounding herself. "It brought me here." "Yes," he said. "And that's the problem." The walls creaked softly, leaning closer. The firelight flickered, shadows dancing across his face, sharpening every line, every emotion he tried to bury. "You're not supposed to follow it," Adrian continued. "That's another rule." "You never told me that one," she said. He stepped closer, stopping just short of touching her. "Because you wouldn't have listened." Her pulse raced. "Why are you still here, Adrian?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. Silence fell heavy between them. "Because I failed to leave," he said finally. "And because the house doesn't let go of people who understand it." The hum deepened. Evelyn felt the pull again, not just toward the house, but toward him. Fear and desire tangled together, impossible to separate. "I don't want this," she whispered. The house sighed. Adrian's voice softened. "The house doesn't care what you want. It cares what you'll stay for." The lights flickered once, then steadied. The night stretched on, unblinking, attentive. And somewhere in the dark, Hollow House listened to every heartbeat, waiting to see which one of them would give in first. Chapter 6. What the house takes first. The house didn't take pain. It took time. Evelyn realized it the next morning when she woke to light pouring through the window, far too bright, far too late. Her body felt heavy, as if sleep had never fully claimed her, as if the night had been stretched thin and folded back in on itself. She sat up slowly. The clock on the bedside table read 11:42 a.m. Her breath caught. "I didn't sleep that long," she whispered. The house did not answer. It didn't need to. Her memories of the night were blurred at the edges, like fingerprints wiped from glass. She remembered standing in the sitting room. Remembered Adrian's voice. Remembered the feeling of being held in place by something unseen. But the hours between were missing. She swung her legs over the bed. The floor was cool now, distant, indifferent. As if the house had already taken what it wanted from the night and had no further interest in comforting her. Down the hall, a door closed. Not loudly. Deliberately. Evelyn followed the sound. Adrian was in the kitchen, standing at the counter, hands braced against the stone surface. He looked up as she entered, eyes sharp, immediately assessing. "You feel it," he said. She nodded. "I lost time." He exhaled slowly. "Then it's begun." Her stomach tightened. "That's what it takes first." "Yes," he said. "Sleep. Time. Privacy. Things you don't notice until you're already negotiating without realizing it." She wrapped her arms around herself. "Why?" "Because they soften you," Adrian replied. "Make you doubt your instincts. Make you tired enough to accept explanations that don't make sense." The kettle on the stove whistled suddenly. Neither of them had turned it on. Adrian moved first, shutting it off with a sharp twist of his wrist. The sound died instantly, like it had never existed. "It's listening again," Evelyn said. "It always is," he replied. "But now it's collecting data." Her pulse quickened. "About what?" He met her gaze. "How long you can go without rest. How much uncertainty you tolerate. How quickly you start leaning on me instead of yourself." The words hit harder than fear. "I don't need." "I know," he interrupted gently. "That's why it will try to convince you otherwise." A drawer slid open behind her. Inside lay her phone. She stared at it. "I left that in my room." Adrian's jaw tightened. "You didn't leave it. The house took it." Her throat went dry. She reached for it and frowned. No signal. No time. No notifications. Just a blank screen reflecting her face back at her. "It's isolating me," she whispered. "Yes," Adrian said. "That's the second thing it takes. Your sense of elsewhere." The walls creaked softly, as if amused. Evelyn set the phone down carefully, as though it might bite. "And after that?" Adrian hesitated. She hated that she noticed. That she watched his restraint fracture just enough to reveal fear beneath it. "After that," he said quietly, "it starts asking for things you feel instead of things you own." The air shifted. Evelyn felt it subtle, invasive, intimate. Like fingers brushing the edge of her thoughts, testing which ones she'd defend. "I won't give it anything," she said firmly. Adrian stepped closer, voice low. "You already have. You just don't know which parts yet." The house hummed, pleased. Evelyn understood then. Hollow House didn't steal all at once. It took pieces. And it always started with the ones people didn't know how to protect. Chapter 7. The question you're not supposed to answer. The question arrived without sound. Evelyn felt it before she heard it, an intrusion so subtle it slipped between thoughts, settling into her mind like it had always belonged there. She was standing alone in her room, sunlight muted behind heavy curtains she didn't remember closing. The walls felt closer than they had the night before, the air faintly warm, almost expectant. Then it asked, "Why did you stay?" Her breath caught. The words weren't spoken aloud. They didn't echo. They didn't vibrate the walls. They simply appeared, fully formed, intimate as a thought she hadn't meant to think. "No," she whispered. "I didn't imagine that." The house did not respond. It waited. Evelyn pressed her palm against her chest, grounding herself. Her heart was racing, but not with panic alone. There was something else tangled in it, recognition, maybe. Or truth pressing too close to the surface. She stepped back from the wall. The floor creaked in answer. "Why did you stay?" Her throat tightened. She thought of the gate closing behind her. The job listing. The choice that hadn't felt like one at all. "Because I had no choice," she said aloud. The house shifted. Not satisfied. She felt the pressure increase, like a presence leaning closer, not threatening, not violent, just insistent. The house wasn't angry. It was curious. It wanted honesty. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Adrian appeared in the doorway, his expression sharpening the moment he saw her face. "It asked you," he said. She nodded, swallowing hard. "It asked why I stayed." His jaw tightened. "Did you answer?" "I tried to lie," she admitted. "That's good," he said quickly. "That's very good." But it didn't accept it. Of course it didn't. Adrian stepped fully into the room now, careful not to touch her. He kept distance like a practiced restraint, like someone who knew exactly how much closeness was dangerous. "There are questions you never answer here," he said. Not truthfully. Not completely. "Why?" she asked. "Because the house doesn't ask to understand," he replied. "It asks to claim." The walls creaked softly. Listening. Evelyn's pulse thundered in her ears. "Then why ask at all?" Adrian's gaze softened, just a fraction. "Because most people want to be known. Even by something that can hurt them." The truth of that sank deep. She thought of the loneliness she hadn't named. The nights she'd filled with noise to avoid silence. The way the house felt terrifying, yes, but attentive in a way nothing else had been. "I stayed because," she began. Adrian raised a hand sharply. "Don't." The pressure intensified immediately. "Why did you stay?" Her knees weakened. She gripped the edge of the dresser, breath shallow. The house wasn't forcing the answer, it was inviting it. Making honesty feel like relief. She could feel it then, the temptation to give in, to let the words spill out and be done with the tension. Adrian moved closer, voice low and urgent. "Listen to me. The moment you answer that question honestly, the house will remember it. And it will use it every time you try to leave." Her lips trembled. "I don't know how much longer I can." The house creaked loudly this time, displeased. The lamp flickered. Adrian made a decision. He stepped between her and the wall, cutting off her line of sight, grounding her with his presence alone. Not touching. Just there. "You don't answer it," he said firmly. "Not today. Not ever. You let the question exist unanswered. That's how you survive." The pressure eased. Not gone but reduced. Like fingers loosening their grip. Evelyn exhaled shakily, her head spinning. "It wanted something from me." "Yes," Adrian said. "And it will ask again." "When?" He met her gaze, eyes dark and honest. "When you're tired. Or lonely. Or when you start thinking you can trust it." The house sighed. Patient. Waiting. Evelyn understood then. The danger wasn't the house's questions. It was how much she wanted to answer. Chapter 8. The house watches when you're close to him. Evelyn noticed it first in the silences. They were different now, thicker, weighted, as if the air itself leaned in when she and Adrian stood too near each other. The house had always listened, but this felt sharper. Focused. Intentional. She was in the narrow corridor outside the library when it happened. Adrian had stopped suddenly, turning too fast, and she nearly collided with him. Her breath caught inches from his chest. Too close. He froze. So did the house. The walls creaked softly, not with age but with attention. A low, almost imperceptible hum vibrated beneath the floorboards, like a held breath. Adrian stepped back immediately. "Don't," he said quietly. She frowned. "Don't what?" "Stand that close to me." The way he said it controlled, restrained sent a flicker through her that had nothing to do with fear. "Why?" "Because it's watching." As if summoned by the word, the chandelier above them flickered. "Just once." Evelyn swallowed. "It watches everything." "Yes," he said. "But this is different." She tilted her head, studying him. He looked tense in a way she hadn't seen before, jaw tight. Shoulders rigid, like someone holding a door shut with their body. "What does it do?" she asked slowly, "when we're close?" Adrian hesitated. That was answer enough. She stepped forward again just a fraction, enough to test the space between them. The house reacted instantly. The floor creaked sharply. The temperature dropped. The hum deepened, vibrating against her skin. Adrian's breath changed. "Evelyn," he warned. Her pulse raced not from the house, but from the realization blooming in her chest. "It doesn't like not being included." "No," Adrian said hoarsely. "It doesn't like competition." The word settled heavily between them. She felt it, then the house's attention narrowing, sliding over her like unseen eyes. Not angry. Curious. Evaluating. Measuring what passed between them. "What happens if it decides I matter?" she asked. His gaze locked onto hers. Dark. Unguarded. "Then it will want to know why." Her heart pounded. "And if it decides you matter to me?" Adrian stepped closer without thinking. The house groaned. A sound like old wood under strain rippled through the corridor. The lights dimmed. The walls seemed to lean inward, listening harder. "Step back," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Evelyn didn't. She could feel it now, the dangerous pull between them, amplified by the house's attention. Desire sharpened by fear, intimacy made volatile by being seen. The house wasn't watching to stop them. It was watching to learn. Adrian lifted a hand, stopping just short of touching her. The restraint was almost unbearable. "You don't understand," he murmured. "If the house connects the way you feel to me, it will use that." Her voice came out soft. "You mean it will take it?" "Yes." She should have moved away. Instead, she whispered, "Then why does it feel like it wants us closer?" The walls answered with a slow, deliberate creak. Adrian closed his eyes briefly. "Because it doesn't want love," he said. "It wants leverage." Something brushed her thoughts, then not a voice, not words, just awareness. The sense of being catalogued, observed, marked. Evelyn stepped back at last, breaking the tension. The house relaxed instantly, the hum fading like disappointment. Adrian exhaled, shaking his head. That was a mistake. She hugged herself, skin still buzzing. "We didn't even touch." "That's the problem," he replied. "It learned without needing to." They stood there in the aftermath, both unsettled, both changed. Because now the house knew something new. Not what they'd done, but what they wanted. Chapter 9. What the house does with desire. The house did not act immediately. That was the cruelest part. Evelyn spent the rest of the day half waiting for something obvious: a slammed door, a shattered window, a voice in the walls. None of it came. Hollow House remained almost polite, its silence stretched thin and watchful. Too watchful. By nightfall, the air felt charged, like the pause before a storm that refused to break. She found Adrian in the study, standing by the window, staring into the darkness beyond the glass. He didn't turn when she entered. "It's quiet," she said. "Yes," he replied. "Which means it's decided something." Her chest tightened. About what? He finally faced her. About how to use what it learned. The fire in the hearth flared suddenly, though no one had touched it. Shadows leapt across the walls, bending, stretching, forming shapes that almost looked like figures standing too close together. Evelyn's pulse quickened. "I feel unsettled," she admitted. "Like something keeps brushing against my thoughts." Adrian nodded slowly. "It's replaying." "Replaying what?" "Your reaction to me. My reaction to you." His voice lowered. "Desire leaves an imprint here. The house records it." A soft sound echoed through the room like a sigh drawn from old wood. Evelyn wrapped her arms around herself. "Why?" "Because desire is unfinished," Adrian said. "It pulls. It reaches. The house exploits that." The shadows shifted again. This time, they moved with intention, elongating, drifting closer to her feet, brushing the hem of her clothing without touching her skin. She stepped back sharply. The shadows followed. "Stop," she whispered. They didn't. Adrian crossed the room in 2 strides, placing himself between her and the firelight. The shadows recoiled slightly, irritated. "It's trying to provoke you," he said. "Trying to remind you of how it felt earlier. Heighten it. Make you crave relief." Her voice trembled. "Relief from what?" "From the tension," he replied. "From wanting something you can't safely have." The truth of it burned. The house creaked loudly, displeased by his interference. The fire surged higher. Evelyn felt heat bloom beneath her skin, not purely physical, not entirely her own. A distortion of desire, twisted by the house's presence. It wasn't arousal exactly. It was pressure. "You feel that," Adrian said, watching her carefully. "Yes," she whispered. "Like it's amplifying something." "That's what it does," he said. "It takes what you want and turns it up until you stop asking whether you should." The shadows surged again, climbing the walls now, forming the suggestion of 2 figures leaning toward one another. Not touching. Always almost. Evelyn's breath came shallow. "It's using us." "Yes," Adrian said. "And if we let it finish, if you seek comfort in the wrong moment, it will bind that feeling to this place." Her gaze locked onto his. "Then what do we do?" For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, quietly, "We deny it satisfaction." The shadows twitched violently, as if offended. "How?" she asked. "By refusing to let it turn longing into action," he said. "By staying aware. By staying apart when it wants closeness." The house responded immediately. A sharp crack split the room as a framed mirror on the wall fractured, a single jagged line running straight down the center. Evelyn flinched. "It doesn't like being refused," she said. "No," Adrian agreed. "It prefers hunger unresolved." The fire dimmed slowly, shadows retreating as if sulking. But the feeling didn't disappear. It lingered between them, thick, unresolved, dangerous. As Adrian stepped back, putting distance between them again, Evelyn realized something chilling. The house wasn't trying to force desire. It was teaching her how powerful it could be. And next time it might not be content with suggestion alone. Chapter 10. The house makes an offer. Evelyn awoke to a soft glow spilling through her bedroom window, though she hadn't opened the curtains. The room smelled faintly of rain and smoke, the same scent that had clung to Adrian the first night. The warmth of the sun, or something like it, was deceptive. The air was heavier than it should have been, charged with awareness. Her eyes caught movement across the far wall. Not shadows, not light, something deliberate. A single word formed in her mind. Choose. She froze. The house never spoke aloud. It didn't need to. Its influence was deeper than sound. It lived in thought, in impulse, in the ache between her ribs. Footsteps approached. Adrian appeared in the doorway, calm, careful, but tension radiating from him like static. "It's decided to speak," he said quietly. "In its own way." Evelyn swallowed. "Decided what?" He shook his head. "Not me. You." Her pulse spiked. "What does that mean?" "The house is offering relief," he said. "A way to stop the tension. To silence the hunger it's feeding between us." Her stomach dropped. "What? What kind of relief?" "The kind you crave without admitting it. The kind you feel but can't name," he whispered. "It can give it. But nothing is free here." The walls groaned softly, almost impatiently. The lamps flickered, throwing shadows that leaned closer. Evelyn's hands trembled. It's asking me to take it." "No," Adrian corrected. "It's giving you the illusion of choice. In reality, it's testing you. Seeing how far you'll bend. How much you'll risk for a moment of ease." The air around her vibrated. She could almost feel it pressing against her chest, curling around her thoughts. "What happens if I refuse?" she asked. Adrian's eyes darkened. "It will escalate." "What, how?" He stepped closer. "It will take more. Sleep, patience, clarity. The longer you resist, the higher the stakes." And eventually his voice dropped to a whisper. "It will take something personal. Something you can't replace." Evelyn's chest tightened. "And if I accept?" The shadows shifted. A lamp flickered violently, then settled. "It will give you what you want," Adrian said. "But in return, it will mark you. Record the moment. And every time the house wants leverage, it will call that moment back." A strange mixture of fear and temptation pulsed in her. She could almost feel the tension in her chest melting, replaced by warmth, safety, the illusion of comfort. Her voice was barely audible. "Why does it even care about us?" Adrian shook his head. "It doesn't care about you. It cares about control. About knowing what you'll do to relieve yourself from pressure. About knowing your limits and how to push them." The room seemed to contract. The walls closed in slightly, almost playfully. Evelyn's hand hovered near her chest. "And it's offering me a choice." "Yes," he said. "The first offer it's ever made me see. And that's what makes it dangerous." A shiver ran down her spine. "Because it can't be refused without cost." "Exactly." Adrian stepped closer, just close enough to brush her thoughts with his presence, not his hand. "The house only gives you what you want if you understand the price." Evelyn closed her eyes. The glow of the lamp warmed her face. The tension between them, the pull of desire, fear, and curiosity was almost unbearable. The house waited. Patient. Watching. Judging. And Evelyn realized. This was the first time it had asked her to negotiate. The first time it had offered. And the first time she understood that in Hollow House, offers were never generosity. They were threats wrapped in temptation. Chapter 11. The house measures loyalty. The morning came not with sunlight, but with a subtle shift in the air. The walls themselves seemed to hum a soft vibration, almost musical, but deep in her chest, pressing against her ribs. Evelyn didn't see it at first, but she felt it. The house had been awake long before she had. Listening. judging, waiting. Adrian sat at the edge of the library table, his posture tight, jaw clenched. The moment Evelyn entered, he glanced at her not with anger, but with calculation, as if measuring her mood, her intentions, her very loyalty. "You slept?" he asked, though his eyes said more. "Not really," she admitted. "I woke. Several times. Felt watched." "Yes," he said softly. "You were." She frowned. "It's still testing me, isn't it?" Adrian didn't answer immediately. Instead, he rose slowly and walked a few steps closer. Every motion precise, measured, almost careful, not just with her, but with the space between them. "The house measures loyalty differently from other things," he said at last. "It doesn't care if you obey. It cares who you choose to obey with. Or against." Her pulse quickened. "You mean, me and you?" "Yes." His gaze darkened. "Every glance, every step, every breath you take near me, it records. Evaluates. Compares." Evelyn felt it then. The subtle pressure in the air, the way the walls seemed closer, leaning in. Not judgmental but expectant. Almost hungry for the outcome. "What outcome?" she whispered. Adrian stepped closer, still careful not to touch her. "It wants to know whose side you're on. Mine, or the house's." Her stomach twisted. "I'm not choosing sides. I just—" "You are," he interrupted. "By being here. By staying. By letting it observe how you react to me." The lamps flickered. Shadows pulled in corners, stretching longer, thinner, more alive. "You're afraid," she said quietly. "Of what?" "Of the answer," he murmured. "And so is the house." She swallowed hard. "And if I fail this loyalty test?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "Then it will know how to break you faster. It will use my presence, your trust, your desire, everything you've given it and everything you haven't." The room shifted slightly, walls bending almost imperceptibly. A whisper of movement, a pressure against her chest. Not a threat, but a reminder. "Then I have to what?" she asked. "Choose carefully," he said. "Not between it and me, but whether you stand with me in spite of it." Her mind raced. She realized the full weight of the house's intent. Every look, every thought, every unspoken desire it catalogued. Not to punish yet, but to see, to remember. "And if I do," she said slowly, "if I prove my loyalty to you." Adrian's eyes softened for a fraction of a second. "Then we survive longer. But the house doesn't forgive. It only observes. And next time, the test will be harder." The floorboards creaked. A door at the far end of the library opened on its own, just a fraction. The house was waiting. Not for obedience. Not for fear. For truth. And Evelyn understood, finally, that loyalty here wasn't just a measure of who she trusted, it was a measure of how much of herself she was willing to surrender while still keeping her mind intact. She swallowed, steadying herself. "I'll stay," she whispered. "With you." Adrian nodded, but the relief in his face was fleeting. He knew, as she did, that the house had already started marking that decision. And that hollow house would never forget. Chapter 12. The house remembers everything. Evelyn awoke to silence. But it wasn't the peaceful kind. Not the quiet of a room emptied of noise. It was the heavy, expectant quiet of a place that already knows too much. She sat on the edge of the bed, tracing her fingers along the worn wood. The room had changed overnight. Subtle shifts in the air, faint warmth in the corners, the lingering scent of smoke and rain. It was as if the house had been breathing while she slept, inhaling her memories. A whisper brushed against her thoughts, soft and deliberate. Do you remember? Her chest tightened. She hadn't spoken aloud. She hadn't acknowledged the thought. Yet the house knew. Adrian was already in the room, standing near the doorway. He didn't move toward her. He didn't need to. The weight of his presence alone anchored her, but it didn't shield her from the house. It's awake, he said softly. More than ever. I feel it, she whispered. It's looking inside me. Yes, he said. And it remembers everything it finds. Every thought, every secret, every fear. Her stomach knotted. Every secret. He nodded. Including the ones you don't tell yourself. The walls shivered almost imperceptibly. A faint creak, like a sigh. Suddenly, a small mirror on the dresser fogged over, writing appearing on the glass. You lied to protect him. But did you protect yourself? Evelyn stepped back, heart racing. She hadn't spoken the words aloud. Not ever. And yet, here they were. The house was drawing out her guilt, her shame, her unspoken fears and displaying them. I didn't think it could, she began. Adrian interrupted softly, voice taut with concern. It doesn't just watch. It archives. And the more it archives, the more it understands how to manipulate you.
Her hands trembled. Manipulate? How? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. By knowing which buttons to press. Which memories to dredge up. Which desires you think are hidden. It doesn't need force, it uses knowledge. And it always wins when it waits. A gust of cold air swept the room, ruffling her hair. The walls seemed to pulse, shadows creeping along the corners. She realized, then, that even the furniture, the layout of the room, the faint patterns in the rug, they weren't accidental. The house had learned her habits, her preferences, her movements. Every morning she rose, every hesitation she made, it catalogued them all. And it won't stop, she whispered. No, Adrian said quietly. It only grows stronger. The mirror fogged again, this time forming a single sentence. Do you trust him enough to survive? Evelyn's breath hitched. Her gaze met Adrian's. His dark eyes were steady, but she could see the tension beneath the surface. He knew the house had just tested both of them, her loyalty, and his ability to protect her from what it could remember. What if I fail? She asked. You don't, he said firmly. Not yet. But every thought it archives is a weapon. And every weapon it remembers can be used against you. The walls creaked again, almost impatiently. The house had already begun to pull at her past. Small items, whispers of memory, half-forgotten regrets. It remembered everything. And Evelyn understood, in that heavy, suffocating moment, that survival wasn't just about strength or desire. It was about keeping one step ahead of a mind that never forgets. And Hollow House never forgot. Chapter 13. The Walls Whisper. Evelyn stood in the center of the main hall, the silence of Hollow House pressing in from every corner. Walls weren't walls anymore, they were alive, breathing with memory, pulse, and intent. She had lost track of time. Days. Weeks. Hours blurred together like shadows stretching across the floors. A single phrase etched itself across the air, almost audible. Will you survive knowing everything you've allowed? Evelyn opened her eyes. Adrian was closer now, yet he did not touch her. His gaze held hers, steady, unwavering. I don't know, she admitted. I don't know if I can. You can, he said firmly. But only if you accept the truth the house has shown you. That desire and fear are yours. That trust is a weapon, and loyalty is survival. That nothing here is free. Not love. Not safety. Not even breath. The whispers intensified, but Evelyn no longer flinched. She let them flow through her, naming each feeling as it came. Fear, lust, longing, shame. One by one, she claimed them. The house paused, as if surprised. And then, slowly, the walls exhaled. The shadows receded. The lamps steadied. The pulse of the house slowed. Hollow House had spoken. You survived, Adrian murmured, voice heavy with exhaustion and relief. Evelyn sank to her knees, heart racing, but a calmness spreading through her. I think I understand now. Adrian extended a hand. She took it, and for the first time, she felt safe not because the house had released her, but because she had faced it fully, without hiding, without denial. The walls whispered one last time, soft and almost approving. You belong here. And yet, you are free. Freedom. A strange word in Hollow House. It didn't mean leaving. It didn't mean escape. It meant surviving fully, awake, aware, owning desire and fear alike. Evelyn rose, hand in hand with Adrian, ready to face whatever Hollow House would show them next. Because survival wasn't about avoiding the house. It was about learning to walk among its whispers and never letting them control you. The gates of Hollow House creaked softly in the wind. And somewhere deep in the walls, a slow, satisfied pulse echoed. She was alive. She was awake. And she would never be the same.